Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Welcome to episode 2 of How I Learned to Code, for free of course. In the first episode we looked at basic HTML stuff from FreeCodeCamp, and then we finished section 1 and then we started section 2, which is basic CSS, and then I decided to stop and continue with the second video. So before this part, in the end of last video, we saw the introduction to this chapter. We saw that there are 3 ways that we can apply CSS rules. We can either use the style tag in an HTML document. We can use it within an element. So here we can apply inline styles within an HTML element using an attribute. Or we can create a style tag and add that information in there. Or finally, we can create a separate file. And then we saw that it was many developers choose to use the third option because it improves the readability and reusability of the code. And then we saw that the idea behind CSS is that you can use a selector to target an HTML element in the document object model, and then apply a variety of attributes to that element to change the way it is displayed on the page. And we didn't really know what, or I didn't really know what DOM meant. So let me quickly add that question. And then I'll add an answer. What is DOM? Right. So I don't think it's too important now to know what it means. But it probably will be important at some point, so I'll just add it here for now, and I'll add a few links. I think I also found a quick explanation, right? Yeah, but that's not too relevant now. So let's go on with part 2. Go to the first section, go to the first lesson. Okay, let's see how we can change the color of text. Right. Apparently you can just add the style element. No, this would probably be an attribute. Let's see, can we see that? Attribute. Or didn't add it here. Okay, so I'm still a bit confused about that. Style tag, style attribute. Okay, so let me add that here. Alt href required for style, etc. Okay, so style is an attribute, and we would just add the style and then this command color, and then which color we want, and then close the opening tag and then add the closing tag. Note that it's a good practice to end inline style. Okay, so apparently it's not necessary, but it's good practice. So it wants us to change the H2 element so that its color is red. H2 is up here, so I just add the style attribute and say color red, semicolon, and then close the opening tag. Oh, that was already closed. And there we go, it's red. So let's just add our solution and Control Enter. Next part, use CSS selectors to style elements. With CSS, there are hundreds of CSS properties that you can use to change the way an element looks on your page. When we used this attribute, you were styling that individual H2 element with an inline CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. That's one way to specify the style of an element, but there's a better way to apply CSS. At the top of your code, create a style block. Okay, inside the style block, you can create a CSS selector for all H2 elements. For example, if you wanted them to be red, this is what it would look like. So this way, all H2 elements would be red. Note that it's important to have both opening and closing curly braces around each element's style rules. So here, these braces. You also need to make sure that your element style definition is between the opening and closing style tags. So here. Finally, be sure to add a semicolon to the end of each of your element's style rules. Interesting. So it's Okay, it's before the closing curly brace. Delete your h2 element's style attribute. So I've got to delete this part. Now it's an ordinary h2 element. And instead create a CSS style block. Add the necessary CSS to turn all h2 elements blue. So I'm guessing we'll add that to the top, because it says at the top of your code. So I'll create a block called a style block, and then h2 curly brace color. What does it want? What color does it want me to? Should be blue. Color blue, semicolon, curly brace, and then close the style. That worked. I guess that's it. Well, again, it's the same as the example. Okay, no errors. Use a CSS class to style an element. So instead of a CSS selector, I guess. Let's see. Classes are reusable styles that can be added to HTML elements. Here's an example of a class declaration. Oh, okay, so we're creating a custom style. We're calling it blue text, and then we can always use it to style a single element, I guess. You can see that in a style tag. Okay, h2 class is equal to blue text. Okay, so here we have a period, but here we don't. Note that in your CSS style element, class names start with a period. In your HTML elements' class attribute, the class name does not include the period. Inside your style element, so in here, change the h2 selector to .red text and update the colors value Interesting. Change the h2 selector. Oh, no, it's not this. Okay, so instead of making all h2s red, I'm gonna create a new class called red text, color red. So now, if I use this somewhere, for example, for my h2 here, class is equal to red text, and then it should be enough. There we go. I think that worked. I think it's pretty similar, but I'll just add it. Let's see. There we go. Oh, I forgot to check the code. Okay. Style multiple elements with a CSS class. Very short lesson. Classes allow you to use the same CSS style on multiple HTML elements. You can see this by applying your red text class to the first P element. First P element is here, so I just have to say class red minus text, and then the paragraph should also be red, and it looks like it's working. Oh, I forgot to copy the solution. Pretty easy. Okay, I don't want this extra paragraph indentation. There we go. Next up is change the font size of an element. Font size is controlled by the font size CSS property like this. Font size inside the same style tag that contains your red text class. Create an entry for P elements and set the font size to 16 pixels. So P font minus size 16px semicolon. That should be it. I think this way all paragraph items elements should be 16. I didn't forget that, the semicolon. I don't know why I have two of these. Oh, because it already created one automatically. Just to see if it worked. Yeah. So again, it's pretty similar to the example. Control Enter. Next up, set the font family of an element. Oh, I remember this. Font family. You can switch the font of an element. No, you can set which font an element should use by using the font element property. For example, if you wanted to set your H2 element's font to sans serif, you would use the following CSS: font family sans serif. Make all of your P elements use mono space font. So font minus family mono space. That's it. Control Enter. Import a Google font. Okay, so instead of using your local fonts or like default Windows fonts, I guess, you can also use Google fonts. Yeah. Non-standard custom web fonts. There are various sources. One of them is the Google Fonts library. It's free. I just want to see how many fonts. Like, is it a huge amount? 915 fonts. Wow, nice. Let's go ahead and import and apply a Google font. Note that if Google is blocked in your country, you will need to skip this challenge. Well, you won't have to skip it, but you won't be able to successfully complete it, I guess, without a VPN. To import a Google font, you can copy the font's URL from Google Fonts library and then paste it into your HTML. And for this challenge, we'll import the Lobster font. To do this, copy the following code snippet and paste it into the top of your code editor before opening the style element. Okay, just like that. Without any other commands, yeah, just link href. Now you can use the Lobster font in your CSS by using Lobster as the family name, as in the following example: font family, family name, generic name. The generic name is optional and it's a fallback font in case the specified font is not available. This is covered in the next challenge. Family names are case sensitive and need to be wrapped in quotes if there's a space in the name. For example, you need to use quotes to use the Open Sans font, but not to use the Lobster font. Create a font family CSS rule that uses the Lobster font and ensure that it will be applied to your H2 element. So just H2 font family Lobster. So Lobster is now loaded. It changed the font used for the H2. I guess that worked. Pretty simple, right? Is there an example? No, so okay, I'll just, why not? Should have checked it first. Okay, no errors. Specify how fonts should degrade. Oops, it's 8. There are several default fonts that are available in all browsers. These generic font families include mono, space, serif, and sans serif. When one font isn't available, you can tell the browser to degrade to another font. For example, if you wanted to use Helvetica and Helvetica isn't available, then you can do this. Generic font families are not case sensitive. Interesting, and they do not need quotes because they're CSS keywords. Interesting. Okay, so font family names are case sensitive and require quotes if there is a space in between, or if there's a space. On the other hand, generic font, okay. To begin with, apply monospace font to the H2 element. So font family monospace, with a small m, lowercase m. Now comment out that import of the Lobster font. Note, if you have the Lobster font installed on your computer, you won't see the degradation. Oh, okay, so they're saying, I can, what was it, exclamation, yeah, there we go, and then, so I commented it out, so now it's not Lobster anymore. Oh wait, to begin with, apply monospace so that it now has 2 fonts. I'm a bit confused. So which one should be the primary one? should use the font lobster. Okay, so h2 is lobster, comma, monospace. So is this lobster now? Let's uncomment this and see if it changes anything. Oh yeah, so now it's lobster. Now it's not. Now it's monospace. So I think that worked. It's pretty simple. Control Enter. No errors. Size your images. CSS has a property called width that controls an element's width. Just like with fonts, we'll use pixels to specify the image's width. For example, larger image, a class called larger image, we would use blah blah blah. Okay, this makes sense. So I understand classes, I think. So I say smaller minus image, and I need a curly brace, and then width. What does it say? Use it to 100 pixels. 100 px, semicolon. That's it. That's it. Create a class and use it to resize the image. So where's the image? href. This is the image. So I guess I have to add it here. Class is equal to smaller minus image. Is that correct? No. I don't think that worked. So this is the alt text, so it is the image. Create a class called smaller image. Did that. There's a period in the front. This is correct. There's a colon. There's a semicolon. 100 pixels is correct. Okay, let's just try again. Yeah, this is not working. Okay. Let's check. Create a class. Use it to resize the image so that it's only 100 pixels wide. Due to the browser's implementation differences, you may need to be at 100%. I am at 100%, right? Yes. Width 100px, smaller minus image. Class smaller minus image. Okay, let's do Control Enter. Maybe it's correct. Right. Your image element, img element. It's the only image element. I am confused. So this is just opening a blank. Okay, I don't think that's important. Oh. Interesting. Why? Oh, it can't be in the opening. So here, no, that doesn't work. That works. Okay, all the attributes come here, I guess. So technically this should work as well. I guess not. Okay, I'm a bit confused. Let's watch the video. Don't do that too often.
CSS has a property called width that controls an element's width. This can apply to almost any type of element, like an image or a div or a paragraph, and we're going to create a style that can make a larger image. So I'm going to create this called larger image. Now that's only going to apply to an element with the class larger image, and I'll put width to be 500 pixels. So if we have anything with the class larger image, it will make it larger. So I'm going to actually add that to this image here. I'm going to put class equals larger image. So if we look in the browser here, we should see that the image is very big right now. So for this challenge, we're going to do the opposite. For this challenge, we're going to make a smaller image. So
Okay, I see. So this is actually the image element. This is the anchor element, I guess. So this is the image element, so it has to be in here. This is the opening tag, I guess, and this is just the source, so I can add it here. That works. I can add it here, and that should work. I can also add it here, and that should also work. Okay, now I understand, so I can just copy this. Let's Control Enter. Great. Add borders around your elements. CSS borders have properties like style, color, and width. For example, if we wanted to create a red 5-pixel border around an HTML element, we would use this class: border color red, border width 5, border style solid. Create a class called thick green border. Okay, a new class in the style thing. So I guess we need a period. Thick green minus border, curly brace, border minus color is green, border minus width is 10 pixels, and border minus style is solid. Wonder what border styles there are. HTML, CSS, border style. Yeah, I already checked this. Okay, so it was down here, I guess. None, hidden, dotted, dashed, solid, double, groove, ridge, inset, outset, initial, inherit. So let's... Right, remember that you can apply multiple classes. I'm not sure that this was already in the notes until now. By separating each class name with a space. For example, class... Okay, so for the image, we said class is smaller image, and then we can say thick green border, and then we got the green border. Just want to try one of these other border styles. Groove. Okay, cute. Okay. Ridge. Okay, whatever. So solid it is. Again, it's the same as the example. Control Enter. Next. I don't think I need to add that question, but why not? So, what border styles are there? Whatever. Okay. Add rounded corners with border radius. Your photo currently has sharp corners. There's a CSS property called border radius. You can specify and you can use pixels. Multiple possible solutions. For example, you may add border radius to either the thick green border class or the smaller image class. Okay, so it's saying we can add it here. Border minus radius is 10 pixels. Boom, that worked. Or we can add it to the smaller image because our image belongs or is using both classes. Okay, I'll just add that here as well. Control Enter. Make circular images with a border radius. In addition to pixels, you can also specify the border radius using a percentage. Give your cat photo a radius of 50%. So what do you think? What kind of a radius will it have once I add a 50% radius? Let the guesses come in. And surprise, surprise, it's a circle. Because the radius is half as long as one of the edges, I'm guessing. So then it will become a circle. I wonder, I guess anything more than 50 would be a circle, right? Yeah, and 45. Oh, 45. Yeah, exactly. So 50 and above would be a circle. 50 and below would be a rounded rectangle, I'm guessing. Okay. Give a background color to a div element. You can set an element's background color with the background color property. For example, if you wanted an element's background color to be green, you'd put this within your style element. Green and background color green. Create a class called silver background. So dot silver minus background curly background minus color silver. Assign this class to your div element. Where's my div element? Right here. Div class is equal to silver minus background. Oh, that worked. Okay, that was pretty simple. Set the ID of an element. In addition to classes, each HTML element can also have an ID attribute. There are several benefits to using ID attributes. You can use an ID to style a single element, and later you'll learn that you can use them to select and modify specific elements with JavaScript. Okay, ID attributes should be unique. Browsers won't enforce this, but it is a widely agreed upon best practice, so please don't give more than one element the same ID attribute. Okay, I'll try to remember that. And I'll even add it to my notes. Oh, and this is a question, so it should be read. Here's an example of how you give your H2 element the ID of cat photo app. Okay, that's pretty simple. Give your form element the ID cat photo form. Where's my form? So form ID is equal to cat minus photo minus form. That's it, I guess. Don't know yet how that will help us, but maybe we'll see it now, or maybe we'll see it when we learn more about JavaScript. One cool thing about ID attributes is that, like classes, you can style them using CSS. However, an ID is not reusable and should only be applied to one element. An ID also has a higher specificity than a class. So if both are applied to the same element and have conflicting styles, the styles of the ID will be applied. Okay, I might forget that. Here's an example of how you can take your element with the ID attribute of cat and give it the background color of green in your style element. So in my style element, oh, so now it's a hash symbol. Note that inside your style element, you always reference classes by putting a period. You always reference IDs by putting a hash. Okay. Try giving your form, which now has the ID attribute cat photo form, a green background. Let's check. Okay, so the form has an ID of cat photo form, so I just have to create a new ID, and I'll call it cat photo form, right? And then what do I have to do? A green background color green. There we go. So the form, this whole form now has a green background color. It's also very similar again to this. Adjust the padding of an element. Now let's put our cat photo app away for a little while and learn more about styling HTML. Okay, so all HTML elements are essentially little rectangles. Three important properties control the space that surrounds each HTML element: padding, margin, and border. An element's padding controls the amount of space between the element's content and its border. So padding between the content and the border. Here we can see that the blue box and the red box are nested within the yellow box, right? Note that the red box has more padding than the blue box. Okay, I can see that there's more distance here, empty space here than here. When you increase the blue box's padding, it will increase the distance between the text and the border around it. Change the padding of your blue box to match that of your red box. Okay, so there is a class called redbox, padding 20. There's a class called bluebox, padding 10. So let's change this to 50 just to see what happens. Yeah, so it's this distance, 20. There is no example here, so I'll copy paste my solution. Control Enter. Adjust the margin of an element. An element's margin controls the amount of space between an element's border and surrounding elements. So between this and whatever is outside of the border, I'm guessing. Here we can see that the blue box and red boxes are nested within the yellow box. Note that the red box has a bigger margin right here. This distance is larger than the blue box, making it appear smaller. When you increase the blue box's margin, it will increase the distance between its border and surrounding elements. So if I turn this into 20, the margin, it should look exactly the same as the red box. Change to match, yeah. Okay, that's easy. I'll just add margin as margin, and we can use pixels, Control Enter. Add a negative margin to an element. An element's margin controls the amount of space between an element's border and surrounding. If you set an element's margin to a negative value, the element will grow larger. That makes sense. So there's no distance between the border and the surrounding elements. Try to set the margin to a negative value, like the one for the red box. Change the margin of the blue box to -15 so it fills the entire box. Okay, so what if I do -5? Not sure I get this. -1, what about 0? Oh, so I'm guessing, like, I mean, right now there is some distance between the line, between the border of the blue box and the border of the red box. Oh, maybe it's because of this guy here. No. Okay, this is kind of hard to understand. $10, $50. So it's from all sides, right? Yeah. So if I do -15. Oh, because of this padding. Yeah. And this padding. No, okay, I'm a bit more confused. Padding was the other one, was the contents to the border, right? That's the distance, that's the padding, yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure I understand this, but okay, so negative margin to an element. Didn't really understand negative element margins. So I have to look at that. Add different padding to each side of an element. Okay, so I guess instead of telling the HTML to use one padding for all of the sides, you can separately, yeah, okay, you can specify. Sometimes you'll want to customize different amounts of padding on each of its sides. Control the padding of the individual sides of an element with the padding top, padding right, padding bottom, padding left, padding left. Give the blue box a padding of 40 on top and left. Okay, blue padding top 40 px, padding left 40 px, and then but only 20 on its bottom and right. padding bottom 20 px, padding right 20 px. That's about it. I have to copy that? Why not? Why the heck not? Control Enter. Adding different margins to each side of an element. So just like with padding, you can do the same with margins. Give the blue box a margin of 40 pixels top and left side. Margin top 40 px, margin left 40 px, margin right 20 px. Oh, I wonder what happens if I do margin 20 px. You know, I'm telling it first like that all margins should be 20, and then I'm saying top and left should be 40. Does that work? Okay, so apparently that works. Use clockwise notation to specify the padding of an element. Oops. Instead of specifying an element's padding top blah 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 individually, you can do it like this. These 4 values work like a clock, top, right, bottom, left. Use clockwise notation to give the blue box a padding of 40 to the top and left. Blue box, padding, so it starts with top 40, px, 20, px, so 20, px, 40, px. Is that correct? So top, right, bottom, left. Yeah, that should be right. Same thing with margins. So margin 40 on its top and left. So again, 40 px, 20 px, 20 px, 40 px should do the trick. Yep. Like I said, I'm going through these a bit faster because I already did these a few days ago. So sorry about that, but just, you know, if it's too fast, just please pause the video. We'll see. I'm probably pretty close to the end of the second 2.21. Okay, I came up to 2.21. And now what? That's got to be a mistake. We'll see. I think I'll remember where I stopped. Use attribute selectors to style elements. Okay, you've been giving ID or class attributes to elements that you wish to specifically style. These are known as ID and class selectors. There are other CSS selectors you can use to select custom groups of elements to style. Let's bring out Cat Photo App again to practice using CSS selectors. For this challenge, you'll use the attribute is equal to value attribute selector to style the checkboxes in the Cat Photo app. The selector matches and styles elements with a specific attribute value. For example, the below code changes the margins of all elements with the attribute type and a corresponding value of radio. Type radio. Okay, so this is a selector. Using the type attribute selector, try to give the checkboxes a top margin of 10 pixels and a bottom margin of 15 pixels. So I guess this is in the style element, right? Let's try. So type is equal to, oh, okay, this is a single thing quotation mark. What's that called? Single double quotation mark. Quotes. Single quotation mark, double quotation mark. Okay, that's pretty simple, pretty basic. I thought there might be a more difficult name. type is checkbox, and have to open the curly brace and then tell it margin, top margin of 10 pixels, margin top 10 px, and a bottom margin of 15, margin bottom 15 pixels. I wonder if this worked. How can I check? So if I do 150 pixels, I should see something a bit crazy. And there we go. Okay, so that's pretty neat. Okay, this is what I want to add to my notes because this is pretty neat and I might forget. So this is a ID and class selector, right? No, this is the attribute is equal to value. The attribute is equal to value selector, matches and styles, blah blah blah. Okay. And I have, well, I mean, the example is pretty simple, or it's the same again. Control Enter. By the way, I'm just saying Control Enter because you guys aren't seeing me when I, seeing it happening. So I'll just say it out loud. Understand absolute versus relative units. Oops, wrong document. Okay, yeah, I don't think I've seen this lesson before. So now we're in the new lesson territory. Oh no, I remember seeing this 1.5 EM. Yeah, I remember. The last several challenges all set an element's margin or padding with pixels. Pixels are a type of length unit, which is what tells the browser how to size or space an item. In addition to px, CSS has a number of different length unit options that you can use. The two main, absolute and relative. Inch and millimeter refer to inches and millimeters. Absolute, but there are some differences depending on screen resolution. Okay. Relative units are relative to another length value. For example, EM is based on the size of an element's font. If you set it, if you use it to set the font size property itself, it's relative to the parent's font size. Okay. Note there are several relative unit options that are tied to the size of the viewport. They're covered in the responsive web design principles. Add a padding property to the element with class redbox and set it to 1.5 EM. Element font EM to redbox 1.5 EM. That's it. So if I do 1 EM, the padding is the same as the font size. If I do 5, oh sorry, here, padding 1 EM. Right, that looks about right. If I do 15 EM, it's huge. And if I do 1.5 EM, then I can continue to the next lesson. Style the HTML body element. Now let's start fresh and talk about CSS Inheritance. Yeah, I remember doing this as well. Every HTML page has a body element. We can prove that the body element exists here by giving it a background color of black. We can do this by adding the following to our style element. Okay, so we're telling the whole body to be black. Background, oops. And a semicolon, I guess. Oh, wait, right, I need to create a body element. Right. There we go. Okay. Inherit styles from the body element. Now we've proven that every HTML page has a body element and that its body element can also be styled with CSS. Remember, you can style your body element just like any other element. and all your other elements will inherit your body elements' style. First, create an h1 element with the text hello world. h1, so h1 hello world slash h1. So now it's inheriting the color black, I guess. Then let's give all elements on your page the color of green by adding color green to your body elements style declaration. Color green, just like that. I'm confused. To your body elements style. Oh, body. Okay. Okay, so I'm now saying everything should be green, and the h1 is inheriting it from the body. Okay. Finally, give your body element the font family of monospace. And h1 is also monospace. Okay, that makes sense. So the only thing we did was put it in the body placeholder and the body element. Okay, pretty easy. Oops. Your h1 element should have the text hello world. Hello world. Prioritize one style over another. Oh, right, because we can define styles in different ways, I guess. Sometimes we will receive multiple styles that conflict with one another. For example, can't be both green and pink. Let's see what happens when we create. Okay, will our class override the body element's color CSS property? Create a class called pink text. So it's a class, so it has to start with a period, pink text, curly brace, color pink, and then h1. Give your h1 element the class of pink text. h1 class is equal to pink minus text. Oh, so now it's getting body green, pink text pink, and it's pink. Wonder if that's because it's after body. What if I put it before body? It's still pink. So it's not this order. Okay, I'll just put this in here. Control Enter. Okay. Our pink text class overrode our body elements class CSS declaration. We just proved that our classes will override the body elements CSS. So the next logical question is, what can we do to override our pink text class? Oh, wait. I think I made a mistake. 17, 18, 19, 20. No, I didn't. Okay, this is 27. 28. Right. Create an additional CSS class called blue text. I'm guessing color should be blue. Make sure it's below pink text class declaration. Apply the blue text class to your h1 element in addition to your pink class. Okay. Pink text, blue minus text. Oh, so now it's blue. Doesn't matter which order. The classes are listed in the HTML element. So in other words, if I do this, it will still be blue, right? However, the order of the class declarations in the style section are what is important. Oh, okay. So if I take that, if I put that here, it'll be pink. Okay, right. So the order matters if they're all classes. Right, so the specific class overwrites the body class, and then for these specific classes, the order is important, I think. Yep. Override class declarations by styling ID attributes. Okay, that sounds a bit more complicated. What we just proved that the browser reads CSS from the top to bottom. Right. That means that even in the event of a conflict, the browser will use whichever CSS declaration came last. But we're not done yet. There are other ways that you can override CSS. Do you remember ID attributes? Yeah, kinda. Let's override your pink text and blue text classes and make your h1 element orange by giving the h1 element an ID and then styling that ID. I think IDs, like I had to use hashtags, right? Give your h1 element the ID attribute of orange text. So ID is equal to orange minus text, and then orange minus text currently, color orange. Now it's orange. So ID overwrites classes. Leave the blue text, pink text classes in here. They are. Create a declaration. I did. Doesn't matter whether you declare CSS above. Oh, right. So saying that this order here doesn't matter because the ID always overwrites the classes, I guess. Okay. That makes sense. Override class declarations with inline styles. 1.2.30. So we've proven that ID declarations override class declarations regardless of where they're declared. Right. There are other ways. Do you remember inline styles? Oh, okay. So use an inline style to try to make our h1 element white. So I can say style is equal to color white. Is it like this? Yeah. Leave the blue and pink there. Right, so now everything, so there's like 4 color declarations. Okay, but it's white, so the style, inline style overwrites everything else that we've seen until now. I'll just text is white. Why not? Control Enter. Override all other styles by using important. Okay, wow, there's one more. We just proved that inline styles will override all the CSS declarations in your style element. But wait, there's one last way to override CSS. This is the most powerful method of all, but before we do it, let's talk about why you would ever want to override CSS. In many situations, you will use CSS libraries. These may accidentally override your own CSS. Oh, so when you absolutely need to be sure that an element has specific CSS, you can use !important. Let's go all the way back to our pink text class declaration. Remember that our pink text class was overridden by subsequent class declarations, ID declarations, and inline styles. Let's add the keyword important to your pink element's color declaration to make 100% sure that your h1 element will be pink. So pink text color declaration, color red important. Okay, so color pink, that's an interesting syntax. Huh, so this should override everything else, I guess. Right. Use hex for code-specific colors. Okay, I guess I know a little bit about hexadecimals. It's just a different way to categorize colors, to define colors. Did you know there are other ways to represent colors? One of the ways is called hexadecimal code, or hex code. We usually use decimals or base 10 numbers, which use the symbols 0 to 9. Hexadecimals are base 16 numbers. This means it uses 16 distinct symbols. Like decimals, the symbols 0 to 9 represent the values 0 to 9. Then ABCDF represent the values 10 to 15. Altogether, 0 to F can represent a digit in hexadecimal, giving us 16 total possible values. You can find more information about hexadecimal numbers here. In CSS, we can use 6 hexadecimal digits to represent colors, 2 each for the red, green, and blue components. For example, this is black, and it's also the lowest possible value. You can find more here. Yeah, this is the RGB. There's also like CYMK color system, and that's better for printing, I think. Body color black. Replace the word black in our body element's background color with its hex code representation of this. So it's a hashtag and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. Use hex code to mix colors. Right, that makes sense. To review hex code, use 6 decimals, red, green, and blue. From these pure colors, 3 pure colors, we can vary the amounts to create over 16 million colors. Orange is pure red mixed with some green and no blue, which translates to this. So it's full red, right? FF is the highest possible number. And 0, 0 is the lowest, so no blue. The digit 0 is the lowest. The digit F is the highest, maximum. Maximum possible brightness, complete absence of color. Okay, replace the color words in our style element with their correct hex code. Okay. Style element, black, 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 blue, green, red. Okay, interesting. Dodger, blue. Copy, paste. Green. Green. Orange. Orange and red. I'm red, I'm green, I'm Dodger blue, I'm orange. This is pretty simple. Use abbreviated hex code. Oh, interesting. Oh, why didn't this fit? What the hell? Oops. No. Okay. That's unfortunate, but maybe I can find why. Okay, next time. Or later. Many people feel overwhelmed and it's difficult to remember. Red is na, so you can just say F00. Oh, so it's 1 digit for red, 1 for green, 1 for blue. This reduces the total possible numbers to 4,000. But browsers will interpret as exactly the same color. Of course, why but? Go ahead, try using the abbreviated hex codes. So copy this one. It doesn't take the hash symbol. Green, red, okay, so this is also pretty simple. Yep. Use RGB. Right, there's a different color system. The RGB looks like this. 255 to instead of using 6 hexadecimal digits. If you do the math, 2 digits, 16 times 16 gives us 256 total values. Okay, so it's exactly the same amount of colors you can do. Example, background color RGB, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so background color RGB. Replace for black, so it's 0, 0, 0. Right. Use RGB to mix colors. Okay, so that's pretty similar, pretty easy. Just like we did for hex codes. You can do the same with colors, with RGB, sorry. So blue, red is RGB, and orchid. Okay, so replaced all of them. Pretty easy. Okay, so it's been an hour now. Let me check how many chapters we have. If it's just a few chapters, I'd like to finish it. So we're in basic CSS. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, let's finish up. So the video is going to be a bit longer than an hour, but that's great. Then we can finish basic CSS as well. 1.2.37. CSS variables are a powerful way to change many CSS style properties at once by changing only one value. CSS variables. Variables. Okay. Follow the instructions below to see how changing just 3 values can change the styling of many elements. In the Penguin class, change the black value to gray. Okay, since I'm guessing many elements on this page were defined or declared as black, so when I change this one, yeah, makes sense. Gray to white. Cute. And yellow to orange. Now it's a different type of duck, bird. Maybe it would be good to just have, is that important? I'll just check the code here. Penguin beak. I don't think I've seen this before. So are these variables? I guess those are variables. Oops, to do it again now. Gray, white, orange. Create a custom CSS variable. Okay, right. To create a variable, you just need to give it a name with 2 dashes in front of it and assign it to a value like this. This will create a variable named penguin skin and assign it to the value of gray. Now you can use that variable elsewhere in your CSS to change the value of other elements to gray. In the penguin class, create a variable called penguin skin. So right here. Add code below, add code above. Oh, why? Can't I add it here? Probably can. Let's try. Oh, maybe you have to create variables before. Oh, what happened there? Why? Okay, I don't know why that is happening. Penguin minus skin, gray. Okay, what happens if we add this down here? Okay, that also works. Use a custom, so use the variable that you just created. You can assign its value to other properties by referencing it. Background, var, penguin skin. Okay, so var for variable and then parentheses and then this. Note that styles will not be applied unless the variable names are an exact match. Apply the penguin skin variable to the background property of the penguin top, back, bottom, right, and left classes. Okay, penguin skin is gray, penguin top, background is gray. Left hand and right hand, black to gray, and did I miss it? Oh, here, gray. Oh, right, so now I get it. So undo, 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 right? So, right, what did I do there? Background should be variable, minus, minus, penguin minus skin or dash. Right, okay. Okay, now I get it. Var parentheses dash dash penguin skin, var parentheses dash dash penguin minus skin, parentheses, right? Yeah. And same thing with this. Okay. Attach a fallback value. When using your variable as a CSS property value, you can attach a fallback value that your browser will revert to if the given variable is invalid. Okay, this fallback is not used to increase browser compatibility, and it will not work on Internet Explorer browsers. Rather, it is used so that the browser has a color to display if it cannot find your variable. Here's how to do it. Var peng skin or black. Okay, just like the text font thing, this can be useful for debugging. It looks like there's a problem with the variables supplied to the penguin top and bottom classes. Rather than fixing the typo, add a fallback value of black to the background property of the penguin top and bottom classes. So penguin skin minus black, comma black, and bottom, right? Top and bottom, yeah. Penguin skin black. Right, so if there's a problem, it'll fall back to black. Improve compatibility. When working with CSS, you will likely run into browser compatibility issues at some point. This is why it's important to provide browsers fallbacks to avoid potential problems. When your browser parses the CSS of a web page, parse. What is parsing? Like, I think I have an idea. I guess it's like scraping, like reading everything and then like getting data out of that. I'm not sure. It ignores any properties that it doesn't recognize or support. For example, if you use a CSS variable to assign a background color on a site, Internet Explorer will ignore the background color because it does not support CSS variables. In that case, the browser will use whatever value it has for that property. If it can't find any other value set for that property, it will revert to the default value, which is typically not ideal. This means that if you do not want to provide a browser's fallback, it's as easy as providing another more widely supported value immediately before your declaration. That way an older browser will have something to fall back on, while a new browser will just interpret whatever declaration comes later in the cascade in the CSS. It looks like a variable is being used to set the background color of the red box class. Let's improve the browser compatibility by adding another background color declaration right before the existing declaration and set its value to red. So background var red color, red. I guess that's what it's talking about? No. Oh, your red box rule should include a fallback with the background set to red immediately before the existing. Interesting. Ooh. I'm not sure I get this. So like this? No. Maybe like this. Okay. Okay. Oh, right. So now it's going to, remember, it goes from top to bottom. So it's going to do red, and it's going to read this. If it can do this, it's going to use this. If it can't use this for some reason, it's going to stay red. Okay, so that makes sense. Cascading CSS Variables. I think we're almost done. Let me check. Don't want the video to be too long. Okay, great. 3 more. When you create a variable, it becomes available for you to use inside the element in which you create it. It also becomes available within any elements nested within it. This effect is known as cascading. Sorry. Because of cascading, CSS variables are often defined in the root element. Okay. You can think of the root element as a container for your entire HTML document the same way that an HTML element is a container for the body element. By creating your variables in root, they will be available throughout the whole web page. Okay, interesting. Define a variable named penguin belly. Penguin minus belly. Give it a value of pink. Oh, I forgot how we're supposed to do this. Is this enough? So wherever there's penguin belly, oh right, okay, it's going to be pink. Pinky, pink, pink, pink. Right, I guess that worked. Yeah, I'll just add this part. And that's missing. Okay, Control Enter again. Change a variable for a specific area. When you create your variables in root, they will set the value of that variable for the whole page. You can then overwrite these variables by setting them again within a specific element. Change the value of penguin belly to white in the penguin class. In the penguin class, so I can say penguin belly is white. Yeah, I guess that worked. Cool. Use a media query to change a variable. What? Suddenly we're doing animations, what the hell? How cool is that? CSS variables can simplify the way you use media queries. Whoosh. Nah. What are media queries? Right? And I'll increase the indentation so I know it's copy pasted. Okay, for instance, when your screen is smaller or larger than your media query breakpoint, you can change the value of the variable, and it will apply its style wherever it is used. In the root selector of the media query, what's the media query here? At media. Whoa. At media. In the root selector of the media query, so here. Change it so penguin size is redefined and given a value of 200 pixels. Did it change anything? Also, redefine penguin skin and give it a value of black. Then resize the preview to see this change in action. Oh. What? Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, maximum width 350, so let's do this. Right, so if it's less than 350, I don't know what this at media is, but whatever. Let's watch the video, maybe it says something interesting.
Media queries can be used to change variables. Media queries make different CSS apply depending on the size of the screen. So here's a media query for max width 300 pixels. So we can make variables that only apply when the max width is 350 pixels. So let's try changing the size. So now the penguin.
Yeah, okay, but you're not telling me anything about media queries, what it is. Like, I got like it's easy to get the solution. Okay, so we have to read about media queries. What are media queries? Okay. Great. Oh, so that's the end of that part. Thank you for watching. I will now update the documents, like the workflow. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I will try to answer them in our next videos or under the comments themselves. Until next time, bye-bye.